This video is sponsored by Kspeed. Visit them on the web at brisbanekawasaki.com.au. So the first step of installing our Kspeed billet fuel rail is, of course, as with any service you're going to do on the ski, is to remove the seats and remove the engine cover. Alright, so this is our stock fuel rail right here. You can see it's pretty narrow. It's plastic. Okay, so we've got everything tightened. Be very careful not to scratch the anodized finish. This Allen on the end here is 3/8. So the 3/8 does fit in there perfectly. Again, be careful not to scratch the finish. And then you can just use an adjustable wrench here to tighten the inlet fitting on this end. Alright, so that's assembled. Our next step is to label the injectors. So using some masking tape and a Sharpie, make sure to label each of those injectors, each of these clips rather. So using a Sharpie and some tape, make sure to label each of these. Then you can just go ahead and put those out of the way. Now that you've got these labeled, I just wanted to show you how to remove them. So there's a little clip right here. Very carefully put your finger on one side, use your thumb to open that clip and pull upwards and off. They should come off really easily. Do not tug on the wires, always grasp this by the clip. So now for our fuel connector here, I'm gonna get some paper towels to catch any spillage, and then we're gonna go ahead and disconnect that. So now we're about to remove the fuel connection from the injector rail, but before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and open the cap. This will relieve any pressure in the tank and in the fuel system. You can leave this open for the duration of this project. Okay, so we've got some paper towels in place here, and I'm going to try to show you. So what I do is I put two fingers like that on either side, and then this little orange tab here is what you're going to want to pull up, and you're just going to put your fingers underneath and pop it up just like that. So once you pop this connector up, then what you're going to do is use one finger to grasp the rear of the clasp. Do not pull on the hose itself, and then use your thumb like that to kind of push it back. It will slide right off. Be careful not to break the plastic there. There you go. So we popped it off. Keep it upright. You can see it's full of fuel there. So I am going to make sure I've got this paper towel in place because I don't want to spill fuel all over my build. So now the stock rail is held in place with 4 Phillips head screws. So I'm going to go through and remove each of those now. Just because of the angle here, it's difficult to get a screwdriver. If you have a stubby screwdriver, that'll work. I'm just using a 1/4-inch ratchet with a Phillips head bit. That seems to be the easiest way to get this rail loose. So now our fuel rail is loosened. You can see it's a little loose there. Be very careful. Now what you're going to do is you're going to pull this straight up. You might need to wiggle it just a little bit, but it should come right out. There's nothing else holding it in besides those injectors. So we're going to go using firm pressure, and there you go. Popped right out. Okay, so here's our new Kspeed rail and here's our old rail. So the first thing we got to do is remove each of these injectors. They're just kind of pressed in there, so they should come out fairly easily. So there's one injector. As I pull them out, I'm going to clean them up just a little bit. So our number 2 injector. Now we have the 3rd injector and the 4th injector. Okay, so now any other fuel that's spilled, make sure to capture that with a paper towel like this. We're going to go through and just give the bodies of these injectors a quick wipe so that we don't contaminate our fuel system with any debris. Okay, so now here's our Kspeed rail. We are going to flip it upside down like this. Then the next thing we need is a little bit of grease to apply to these O-rings just to get them to seat. And now you can see I've got a little bit of grease on my finger. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to apply just a bit of grease to each of these O-rings, and that will help them seat. Not very much. You don't want to slather it on there. You just want to get enough on so that it will assist in the assembly. Alrighty. And then these are going to go in just like this. Press those in place. 1, 2, 3, and it helps to turn them a little bit as you're pushing them in. You could see that O-ring. You want to make sure that that O-ring seats properly and is not squishing out. So now that we've got that in place, it's time to affix our hardware that holds these in place. So next, these little cams that come with the kit, they're flat on one edge and rounded on the other. The flat edge fits perfectly onto the fuel rail there. So you're going to go ahead and put these each in like that. That is a 4mm hex. So you're going to go ahead and tighten up each of those. Remember, this is aluminum. It doesn't need to be Hulk tight. You just need to tighten it sufficiently. And I'll show you again a close-up of these pieces here. How it's round on one edge and flat on the other. So you line it up just like that. Put your 4mm hex bolt in place and tighten that down. Alright, so now this is ready to go into our ski. Ensure that the clips are facing towards the front of the fuel rail. I tried to put them in the other way, but the connectors won't fit. So while I was using a T-handle to assemble everything else on the bench, you're going to want a small reach 90-degree Allen wrench like this in order to tighten these. These are also 4mm. Also, my recommendation is that you get each of the 4 in place before tightening them all down. So you've got your fuel hose disconnected and you've got it rerouted here. So now what the Kawasaki manual suggests is putting a little bit of motor oil right on the rail here, just a very little bit. Holding this connector from the connector, not from the hose. Go ahead and you'll see right there that lip. You need to push that on. So you can see this hose is, you want to have it nice and straight like that. No sharp kinks. Once you push it past that lip, you're going to go ahead and push this plastic connector down like that. Then check it. Okay, it's on there good. Now there was a little bit of extra hose here because this hose used to route to the middle of the intake manifold. So I've got it just looped around right here. You want to make sure that it's got loops in it. It doesn't have any kinks. So I had tried to put these injectors in with the clips facing to the back side of the rail here, and the clips just don't go on, so they have to be facing to the front here, just as a reference. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall our clips. So here's our Kspeed billet aluminum fuel rail that fits our 11mm stock injectors. We've got everything reconnected. Make sure your spark plug wires, they should always be 90 degrees to the head like this. I went ahead and updated some of the zip ties, just organized everything to make it look nice and neat. So our next step now is to close the fuel cap that we had open in order to relieve any pressure in the system during our installation. So that's closed. Now we're going to go ahead and put our key in. That's going to power up the pump, and we're going to go ahead and put our safety lanyard on. Alright, so you could hear that there. That is our system powered up. We're going to go ahead now and start the ski for about 10 seconds, and we're going to monitor our fuel rail. So we allowed the ski to idle for about 10 seconds. We gave it a blip of the throttle to double check everything. Make sure to check your plug at the end and your fitting right here, and then all the injectors. Everything looks good. So now we are good to go. That was the installation tutorial of the Kspeed billet aluminum fuel rail. This is an awesome addition to your ski. It really looks great in the engine compartment. They should come out fairly easily. Now what you're going to do, Oh, got some fiberglass in my hand. Right into the nail. Oh. So then you go ahead and push this on right like that. Ah!